morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Ray D'Agostino. I am the Vice Chairman of the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners and also the Chairman of the Lancaster County Board of Elections. As we, the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of Elections, have said throughout this entire election cycle and in years prior, Lancaster County runs each election with the principles of integrity, veracity, and transparency. It is our duty as elected leaders of this county to conduct elections that the voters can feel confident in. We take that role seriously, and so do the hardworking staff in the elections office and our volunteers. Through training and expertise, it is their work and the work of hundreds of volunteers that allows us to conduct elections that are safe, secure, and allow every eligible voter to legally cast their ballot. The staff takes seriously all the principles that I just outlined and all facets of our election, from voter registration to the publishing of results and all aspects in between. It is through their diligence that our staff uncovered apparent incidents of attempted voter registration fraud here in Lancaster County. Through the staff's normal review process, as many as 2,500 completed voter registration forms are being researched for potential fraud stemming from 2 separate drop batches by individuals. At that time, staff contacted the District Attorney's Office and members of the Board of Elections. Applications in these batches are going through an extensive multi-step review process, including the District Attorney's Office for further investigation as warranted. This includes issues of duplicate handwriting matching other voter registration forms in the batches, inconsistent signatures with what is on the file in the SURE system, because some of these or many of these are duplicates, unverifiable and or accurate addresses, and inaccurate driver's license or social security number verification. We have an obligation under the election code, just not only that, but a moral obligation to investigate any matters of potential fraud. Applications that have gone through this extensive review and investigative process and are not deemed to be fraudulent are being processed. I want to stress this. No eligible voter will be turned away. We'll also add that the Commonwealth Department of State and the Attorney General Office has been notified of this matter. We've called this press conference today to share this information with voters and with all the views that people can feel confident in the security of Lancaster County's elections and that we take these matters seriously. As we have said previously, and I just mentioned, elections here, we do it with integrity, veracity, and transparency. And here in Pennsylvania, elections have become more complex as we have been conducting now for at least a couple of weeks, 3 different types of elections simultaneously. Adding this challenging matter on top of this adds to that task. So on behalf of the board, I want to sincerely thank Krista Miller, the Chief Clerk of the Elections Board and Voter Registrations Commission, her staff and volunteers for their hard work, dedication, diligence, and perseverance, particularly in the face of recent false and misleading statements regarding aspects of their work. I also want to thank Larry George and the Board of Commissioners staff for answering the call to assist in this monumental task. We could not do it without them. And finally, enormous appreciation to District Attorney Heather Adams, who is here today, and her staff for their assistance. This also would not be possible without their help. Please understand this is truly a team effort. I also want to thank our solicitor who's here today and all her work in terms of making sure that everything we do is following the law. This time I'm going to turn it over to District Attorney Heather Adams for a statement and update on the investigation, followed by comments by my colleagues, Commissioners Yoder and then Parsons, and then we will open it up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. District Attorney Heather Adams. On Tuesday afternoon, I was contacted by Krista Miller, who is our Chief Clerk of Elections, regarding potentially fraudulent voter registration applications that had recently been received by her office. At that time, she informed me that the Elections Office received approximately 2,500 applications at or near the deadline for registering to vote. While preparing to process these applications, staff noticed that numerous applications appeared to have the same handwriting, were filled out on the same day with unknown signatures, and some were previously registered voters, excuse me, and the signatures on file did not match the signatures on the application. So before I begin to summarize our preliminary findings, I must remind everyone that this is an ongoing investigation, and for that reason, I will be limited in the details that I can provide. Lancaster County detectives began investigating the voter registration applications and immediately found applications that were indeed fraudulent. Indicators of fraud included inaccuracies with the addresses listed on the applications, false personal identification information, as well as false names. A number of the applications also contained names that did not match the provided Social Security information. In some cases, applications contained correct personal identification information, such as the correct address, correct phone number, date of birth, driver's license number, and Social Security number. But the individuals listed on the applications informed detectives that they did not request the form, they did not complete the form, and verified that the signature on the form was not theirs. At this point, it is believed that the fraudulent voter registrations are connected to a large-scale canvassing operations for voter registrations that date back to June. However, the majority of the applications received are dated August 15th and after. Those canvassing for voter registrations were employed and paid to obtain voter registration applications. The majority of the applications were from residents in the city of Lancaster. However, applications were also received from residents in Columbia, Elizabethtown, Mountjoy, Akron, Ephrata, Stevens, Strasburg, as well as other locations across Lancaster County. The canvasses themselves took place at various shopping centers, parking lots of grocery stores and businesses, sidewalks, and parks. During this preliminary investigations, detectives were able to verify some of the applications were indeed legitimate. In these instances, the applicant verified that they did provide information to a canvasser. For these applications, we will immediately advise voter registration and that we confirm that they are legitimate requests, and voter registration will process that application. Thus far, of the investigations that we have completed, we have determined that 60% have been fraudulent. That is of the investigations that we've completed.
Damn, that's a lot.
We do have more to do today, and my understanding is that voter registration is still going through the box of 2,500, but should be completed sometime here today.
Pennsylvania known to
As I
cheat.
said, the investigation is ongoing. We are aware of at least 2 other counties that received similar applications that are currently being investigated. At this point, we have confirmed violation of our crimes code as well as our elections code. We have all available detectives working on this. We are all hands on deck so that we can properly assess the validity of these applications in a timely manner. If needed, we will request additional assistance from our local police departments. The message to the public is this. This is a limited message to those who may have been impacted with this batch of 2,500. If you have reason to believe that your personal information was used on a voter registration application without your consent, or if you were approached by someone and asked to register under suspicious circumstances, we do want to hear from you. You can call the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office, 299-8100, and ask to speak to the on-call detective. I want to thank the staff of the Voter Registration Office for their excellent work, their diligence, and cooperation in this investigation. We will, of course, release any additional information that we can as the investigation proceeds. This time, I want to turn it over to Commissioner Alice Yoder.
Thank you. And I also want to start out by thanking the election team for the work that they've been doing. It's been ongoing. They've been working really
Love these
hard,
ladies here.
as you'll be able to tell from the information that I will share. So I will
Sweet
start out by
ladies.
thanking them as well. What I'd like to do is to be able to provide an update on the election as it stands to date and some of our progress. At the close of business today, all voter registration applications outside of those identified to contain incidents of fraud will be processed and in the system. As of Thursday, October 24th, yesterday, Lancaster County has 365,210 registered voters. This is a Lancaster County record. We had 354,291 registered voters in 2020. If the SURE system has identified a voter's registration application as requiring further information, that voter will automatically receive a letter with instructions. An important reminder that voters can check their voter registration status, polling place location, and mail ballot application status on the Department of State website, and we encourage everyone to do that. Any voter who has questions after checking the Department of State website should contact the Board of Elections office. As of the end of the day, Thursday, October 24th, yesterday, the Board of Elections office has received 65,873 requests for mail-in ballots. Around 46,000 completed ballots have been returned already. The deadline to request a mail-in ballot is 5 p.m. on Tuesday, October 29th. Voters have until 8 p.m. on Election Day to return their ballots.
Bauer Power Tools from Harbor Freight empower you to tackle jobs around your home, big and small.
Every American deserves the right to fair housing, and Kamala Harris is working to make that right realized by us all.
At this point, we recommend that you come into the elections office to drop off your ballot based on not being certain how the mail will go in this short period of time, so please come in. The election office continues to serve voters at the counter each day, on an average 350 voters at the counter each day. The election office will continue to offer extended hours for mail-in ballots requests and to drop off your mail-in ballots. And I'd like to just remind everybody of those extended hours. Friday, today, October 25th, it's 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday, October 26th, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Monday, October 28th, it's 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Thursday, October 31st, it's 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Friday, November 1st, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday, November 2nd, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. The county has also reserved free parking that's available on Chestnut outside the post office for voters to come in to drop off your mail-in ballot, and we encourage you to do so. I'll now turn it over to Commissioner Parsons.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. Josh Parsons, Chairman of the Board of Commissioners, Vice Chairman of the Board of Elections. As you've now heard, thanks to the great work of our Board of Elections staff, we've identified this suspected voter registration fraud operation. We then isolated and contained all suspected fraudulent ballots. We notified the district attorney, and she immediately brought to bear all necessary resources and went into action to investigate. I want to thank DA Adams, her county detectives, and her whole team. They immediately jumped in to action to launch a very large-scale investigation. As a former prosecutor myself, I can tell you that starting a large-scale investigation on short notice is not easy. But they are absolute top-notch professionals, and I'm confident they will find and prosecute those responsible for this attack on our election system. I also want to thank the nonpartisan election workers of Lancaster County. They work incredibly hard and incredibly long hours, as my colleague Alice just said, to ensure that our system works. They take it as virtually a sacred duty to do their jobs and do them correctly and in strict accordance with the law. We 3 election board members do also. Whatever our partisan positions are outside of this office, when we sit here as members of the Board of Elections, our duty is to follow and enforce the law. That's what we've always done. I will note that earlier this week, even as our nonpartisan election workers were doing their jobs and finding the suspected fraud, they were being attacked with false allegations from groups like the ACLU, WITF LMP, and others who falsely alleged allegations that were frankly absurd. We quickly debunked these allegations, both in public meetings and in communicating with the Department of State. All 3 commissioners are in unanimous and bipartisan agreement that our staff has acted properly. And despite us debunking these, and despite us being aligned with the Pennsylvania Department of State staff on this, Secretary of the Commonwealth, Al Schmidt, repeated these same false allegations that we had already debunked in a letter, in an official letter to us. That letter that Schmidt sent, which was addressed to us, was apparently leaked directly to LNP, so that we were asked questions from LNP before we ever saw them. I'll note it would have been very easy at that time for our staff to simply throw up their hands, and 1, having to do a very difficult, long job. 2, while they're receiving these false allegations from people who should know better, and they could have stopped doing their job. Well, thankfully, they kept doing their job. Thankfully for the people of Lancaster County, thankfully for the people of Pennsylvania. They kept doing their job even in the face of all this. They did it carefully, efficiently, and effectively. Our staff adheres strictly to the law. They make sure that every legal voter can vote, but they do not cut corners on election security. So let me say this to Secretary Schmidt or anyone else. We are running what may be the largest, most complicated election in our lifetime, and we do not have time for that kind of political nonsense. The Pennsylvania Department of State should be helping counties run this election, and frankly, it should be now putting out a warning to other counties about this suspected fraud operation that we have stopped, in case it is operating in other counties. In the absence of that, we will work to alert our colleagues across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania about what has occurred here and to be on the lookout. We're going to continue to operate the Lancaster County election system with integrity, veracity, and transparency, as my colleague, Commissioner D'Agostino said. The people of Lancaster County and the nation can feel secure that our systems worked. Our election in Lancaster County is secure, and we will hold accountable those who threaten it with fraud or anything else. Thank you. With that, we'll take your questions. I will note, as the DA has said, it's an active investigation, so I don't know that we're going to be able to answer all of your questions. But please, when you ask a question, note who you are and what media organization you're with. Carter Walker.
Carter Walker, Brophy. District Attorney Adams or Commissioner D'Agostino, could you just recap the indicators of fraud that you noticed on the envelopes? And District Attorney Adams, it sounds like this was an organized effort, right? So are you able to say what the organization was, or is this an individual doing this, or is it an organization?
Yeah, I can use it. So the confirmed indicators of fraud that detectives came across were inaccuracies with the addresses listed on the applications, fake and false personal identification information, as well as false names. Also applications that contained names that did not match the provided Social Security information. There were also applications, though, that had correct personal identification information, but the signature did not match, and when investigated, they were determined to be fraudulent.
Right, and yes, that's correct. The signatures, the handwriting of the signatures, and that's where what started to tip off our staff, is that, these were in a stack, and all of a sudden, several had the same handwriting and signatures, and immediately our staff contacted us in the district attorney's office. That's how we got alerted, and then it started this large-scale investigation. And as the district attorney said, that's when the detective started to then contact those voters and found out that they were, in fact, most of them were not actually the person who filled it out or signed them.
And you believe this is an organization?
I would say we can say it appears to be an organized effort at this point. But of course, it's an ongoing investigation, and we'll be looking into who exactly participated in it and how far up it goes.
Yes, Barbara?
Well, the fraudulent registrations and applications, did they involve one particular party or did it involve both?
I can say it does not appear at this point. It doesn't seem that it's any one party. In some cases, they're registering in different parties. In some cases, they're just changing an address, or at least appearing to change an address or something else other than party. But at least from what we're seeing, it doesn't look like it's anyone necessarily registration.
More house niggas doing that shit, man.
Can also add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that right for the general election, it really wouldn't matter. What we are concerned about is the fact that if there's fraudulent voters, if there's voters on the books that shouldn't be, it increases the chance that we're going to have voter fraud. And what we're looking into and what we're going to investigate is whether or not, thankfully we stopped part one, right? That was getting a voter on the books that perhaps shouldn't have been. But part two is whether or not anyone intended to turn that application then into a fraudulent vote. And for all intents and purposes, that's been stopped because of the good work of those in the elections office and the ongoing investigation.
And with that, I don't know if you want to speak to this as well. Anyone who tries part two, potentially, we're going to find you.
And
We're also
prosecute
looking
to
at
the
those
fullest.
applications as well, and then matching them up against these applications. So we take this very seriously. I don't know if you want to address that as well.
Get
Well,
caught, you're gonna
yeah,
get
like I said, we have
prosecuted
all
to the
resources-
fullest.
All resources and all hands on deck. And of course, we're going to follow this investigation as far as we can. We will make arrests if we can, and they will be prosecuted accordingly. We have violations of the crime code, potentially forgery, numerous violations of the elections code, which are misdemeanors of the first degree in some instances, and carry with it a 10-year disenfranchisement. So we'll be looking at all the options.
Let's go back, ma'am.
Ireland, ABC 27. You said two other counties also, Heather, I believe, that are experiencing this. Are you able to tell us what counties?
I'm not going to name them. That would be up to them to make a statement if they so choose. Our detectives have been in contact with both of the detectives in those two counties at this point.
Is any of them Delaware County?
Follow-up question before going back. Did you say that some people may have been approached on the street to fill out something, and then those are included as fraudulent as well?
Yes.
Correct. The canvassing operation appears to be in public spaces, parking lots, grocery stores, other businesses, parks, sidewalk and intersections in the city where they would have been approached voters to ask if they wanted to register to vote.
Okay, so then they would have filled that out, and then, it wouldn't have been real, correct?
Well, in some cases, right, that's what we're finding, that we're finding a number of different things. Some cases where the voter felt uncomfortable moving forward, but yet the application was submitted. And others where the information on the form is, completely generated and not accurate.
Carter?
Do you think you caught all the applications coming from this operation? Were they all just submitted at once on Friday, or last Monday?
Friday and Monday.
Yeah, or did more come in July and August that might have been approved?
What it looks like to us is that, and we kind of mentioned this previously, that the date on the applications is one thing, when they come here it's another. And so it appears that this stacks I should say, were generated starting in July and in August and September, and they were brought in at the last minute.
I think your question, Carter, is are we confident we've isolated them? We're confident in our procedures. We're confident that the elections workers that we have do not cut corners, and that they're reviewing all applications in accordance with the law, and that if there were any other issues, we would have caught them.
Yeah, and to that point, as we've said all along, that's how how our staff caught this. This is the process they go through from the time, well, since the voter registrations and mail ballot requests come in. Yes, Barbara?
Is that unusual? There were two separate batches of what, like more than 1,000 each, one on Friday, one on Monday?
Yes. And throughout, I will say this, we've gotten large batches, quite frankly, over the last several weeks from canvassers. And, you know, I don't think we want to, I know we don't want to disparage all folks that are registering people. This seems to be, at this point, and I don't want to steal anything from you, but it seems like it's isolated to maybe one organization, you two. So we don't want to say that you can't trust anybody, quite frankly, because, you know, voter registration is a personal matter, and there are a lot of good people trying to help register people. And that's great and that's fine, and we're happy to help, you know, get those people registered. But this is not right. It's illegal. It's immoral. And we found it, and we're going to take care of it. Yeah.
District Attorney, I want to just comment on that. There are a lot of grassroots activists out there registering people in Lancaster County and all across Pennsylvania. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We 100% support it regardless of your party, and those are fine. And it is not unusual to have large number of voter registrations coming in. We're processing those. This is a limited, specific organization, and we'll deal with that.
Can you name that organization?
No,
You're investigating?
no more comments about, you know, who's behind this or what organization or how many people are involved.
District Attorney, you mentioned that there were 60% of the applications had fraudulent problems with them that have been reviewed so far. So how many have been reviewed and how many have so far?
Here's a smart idea. This election season, be a Pennsylvania energy voter and show your support for our natural gas industry, an economic engine.
Beyond the expected, close to home, Nemours Children's Health, well beyond medicine.
60% of the ones that we've completed. I'm not going to talk about numbers at this point. We are continuing to get applications from the voter registration office. And yeah, I don't want to speculate where this is going to end because the investigation is going to be ongoing.
So of the applications reviewed so far, has it been like 50% of the 2,500, or could you at least ballpark how much has been looked at to this point?
No, I don't want to do that because we're receiving the ones that they are forwarding to us that they've flagged. We're continuing to go through that process. Where that ends up, we will have, you know, additional information once we are able to address all of them.
Does that mean potentially we could end up with more than 2,500?
No, of the 2,500,
Okay.
right.
50%.
A percentage of those are being forwarded to our office for investigation.
And some have been verified that they're okay.
Correct.
And it's a team effort, so we're also going through and checking them, because some of them are already registered, so we're trying to match things up as well, so that the district attorney's office can handle those which are obviously, or not obviously, but potentially fraudulent.
How concerned are you that this is going to create concern about the integrity of an election that is a high-stakes election, that it's happening here, but it could happen other places and not be checked?
All I'm going to say is what I've been saying all along, probably for years now, that people of Lancaster County can be confident in how we conduct our elections. I think this shows, quite frankly, how seriously we take that. And yes, we hope that others around the Commonwealth or the nation are taking it as seriously. I can't comment on that. But anything like this should be taken seriously. We have a sacred duty. And I mean that almost literally, a sacred duty. This is the United States of America. The currency of our democratic constitutional republic is voter registration and then voting, ballots. And I know people across the country take that seriously, but when stuff like this happens, we need to be diligent and prosecute it.
Right.
That's what people want, that's what people deserve.
Facts.
Yeah, Barb, I'd like to just jump in also and reiterate that, to me, this is the opposite of, what you're questioning. I think the idea that this team in the election office has been following everything that comes in to follow the code and what needs to happen, and that they caught this. So to me, this says the opposite about how safe and secure the election system is, and we shouldn't be concerned. This came up, we're addressing it. It's close to the election, so Heather Adams and her team are working as quickly as they can with any other type of support, but it also sends the message, which I think is a key message for today, is that we're taking action right away. The election team caught this, and they could have caught things early on and didn't, but there's none because they didn't find anything. So that's what it looks like to me, is that we got this. Very similar to what Commissioner D'Agostino said.
People might wonder that maybe other county, it could be if it's happening here, it could have happened elsewhere, but it wouldn't be checked or investigated.
Barbara's question was about, do we have concerns that this is going to make people worry about the election system? And that's why we're being, and we've always been 100% transparent about our election system. Many of you have been at our counting operation where we have we have poll watchers from both parties, from all the campaigns. We have credentialed media there. We've always been 100% transparent about our elections. That's why we're having this, to be transparent about it and to also alert other counties about the possibility of it. Carter, you have another question?
Yes. District Attorney Adams, you said the canvassers, you believe they were being paid. Were they being paid hourly, or do you know if they were being paid by voter? Because I think by voter is illegal, if I'm not mistaken.
At this point, I'm not going to comment on that. It's ongoing. Thank you.
District Attorney, can you talk about when contacting these, maybe victims, if we could call it that, are they saying, hey, I meant to register to vote, and this person screwed it up, and I want to vote, or I had no intention of registering to vote, and they stole my social security number, and I'm worried about identity fraud? Are there any other implications of who is being victimized here that you could kind of share?
Well, I'm not going to share those details. However, if someone didn't register to vote and they thought it was under suspicious circumstances, or gave their entire social security number rather than the last four as required, if anyone's worried about whether their personal identification information was stolen or used, certainly they can go to and do credit report checks and those types of things. But if they have any other indications of fraud, whether it be getting mail at their house for someone they've never heard of, then I would encourage them to either reach out to the local police department or to the county detectives.
And at this point, have you been in touch with the organization that was involved with this at all?
Again, I won't comment on that because it's an ongoing investigation.
Do you know do you have a sense yet of if there was more than one actor that was submitting these applications? Was it if there was several people being hired to register people, was it one person?
I can say that it certainly seems to be a widespread effort, but as far as who did what and how many, that is being investigated.
I believe Jane Antonelli, for a voter who may have had their information stolen and registered fraudulently, how would that affect them when they go to vote? When you invite somebody going to vote and they say, well, you're no longer registered here.
Well, we stopped it. We stopped it. I mean, those aren't going to go through. The changes aren't going to go through. Voter registrations are going to go through.
There's a chance that something might go through.
Well, again, the fact of the matter is we've contained this. But if somebody has a question or has an issue, as the district attorney said, they can, of course, call the district attorney's office. As Commissioner Yoder said, anybody has any questions could go on the Department of State's website and check voter registration status. Check because any changes will be noted there, and also their mail ballot status as well. They can check those things out. I want to come back to something that Barbara mentioned as well. The fact that our district attorney's office and detectives have already talked to a couple of their counties, people should feel confident that across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, people are vigilant here. And so, that's the thing. Our election workers are very diligent and vigilant and take this very seriously. They always have, and I think they always will. Anyone else? Tim?
Could you say something about potential penalties? I mean, obviously, that's far ahead.
Sure. Forgery of an application which we have seen evidence of would be a felony of the third degree, punishable by up to 7 years in prison and $15,000 fine. Again, the various election codes violations all differ, but at least one section comes with a 10-year disenfranchisement of your voting privilege.
Could you talk about the other counties that you've notified? Have you shared with them the organization that was behind this?
So, we are still investigating who is behind this. I want to make that clear, okay? We've spoken to the other county detectives. We understand that there's similar...
Hear that, Delaware County?
Or not ballots, pardon me, registration applications that have been received, but beyond that, I am not commenting on where this is leading at this point.
Were you able to identify through surveillance who dropped these badges off?
I can comment on that at this time.
It's all in the investigation.
It was a good try.
The question was, are we able to identify who dropped them off? And the district attorney's not going to comment on that.
Do you anticipate additional developments or announcements prior to Election Day?
We'll be as transparent as we can, of course. Again, with an ongoing investigation, it's delicate, but we felt the need to make sure that the public was aware of this and that if anyone has particular questions, they can reach out and call us. But yes, we'll try to be as transparent as we can.
District Attorney, someone told me today that there had been an issue like this where someone was criminally prosecuted in 2000, I think, in Lancaster County. Are you aware of and maybe the commissioners could speak to this, of the elections office finding instances of this in the past?
I'm not.
We'd have to look up the history. I don't know the history right now. Other questions, comments right now? Anything
Can I
else?
ask something on another topic? If everyone is done with this?
Sure.
Are you guys ready for the long lines outside for people registering? Do you have enough workers? Here is the deadline for dropping off the mail-in ballots or getting them?
You want to handle it?
Yeah, as Commissioner Yoder said, we're averaging about 350 a day. Our staff is crackerjack. They've got a system down. People don't have to wait too long. The process is you come in, and it's probably good to mention this, so people who do want to come in. The process is they come in. If they already have a completed mail ballot application, that's wonderful. They can then get in line, and then one of our election workers will take the application, verify it, and then get them a ballot, making sure that it's verified. They're verified a registered voter. They'll get their ballot, and they can then vote it here. There's places for them to, in a secret way, with panels like you would find at a polling place. They can then vote it and then turn it in. Or they can come here if they don't have an application. They can fill one out here, then turn it in, and then get a ballot and then vote it and then turn it in. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you very much. As the district attorney said, as developments occur, we will be working together to get that out. Thank you very much.